If you're putting in real effort in your business, showing up consistently, doing what you're supposed to do, and the results still feel uneven or unpredictable, then this episode's for you. Because at this stage, the problem is not visibility, it's not motivation, and it's definitely not effort. The problem is that your audience doesn't know what to do next. And without that, momentum stalls. Welcome to the Midlife Business Academy. I'm Lyons, marketing strategist, business coach, and accidental techie. After years of running a successful website design agency, I'm now building the business of my dreams and helping other midlife entrepreneurs do the same. From strategy to marketing to mindset, we covered what really matters when you're growing a business that fits your life. Let's get started. So welcome back to the Midlife Business Academy. If you're done spinning your wheels, done starting over, and ready to build real momentum in your business, you're in the right place. I'm Lori Lyons, hoarse voice and all. I cannot get rid of this. But today we're continuing our client journey series, combining two stages that are often misunderstood, but they're absolutely critical if you want real traction. We're talking about engage and invite. If you've been listening and following along, we've already covered the discover and the connect stage. Being findable, creating resonance, making sure the right people recognizing themselves in your message. Engage and invite are where things shift from awareness to momentum. This is where your effort either starts compounding or it quietly leaks out the sides. And if you've ever thought, I'm doing a lot, but I don't feel it should be this hard, then this episode is going to put language around exactly why. So let's clear up something right away. Engagement is not likes. It's not comments. It's not open rates or views. Those are signals. They're not outcomes. Real engagement is when someone mentally leans in and begins participating in the conversation you are creating. They reply, they don't scroll. They think instead of just consume. And they start connecting the dots to their own business. Hey, this is me. She nailed my problem. Wow, how did she know that I was doing that? Engagement is the bridge between curiosity and trust. And trust is what allows people to move forward. If your engagement is shallow, you won't have momentum, no matter how good your content is. So let's look at engagement as a filter, not a goal. Because one of the biggest mistakes I see business owners making is chasing engagement instead of using it as a filter. They broaden their message, they soften their language, and they try to appeal to more people. You've heard that old saying, oh, I want to work with everybody. But what you get is attention from people who aren't ready to act. And that can kind of feel encouraging at first, but then nothing happens. Real engagement is not about volume. It's about readiness. It's about your clients or your potential clients being ready. The people who are meant to work with you engage with you differently. They ask specific questions. They reference past conversations. I heard this on another of your podcast episodes, or I heard you say this on a reel. They say things like, this is exactly where I am. And that's not noise. That's a signal. And your job is not to amplify it. Your job is to respond to it. And engagement looks different depending on where you are in your business. If you're a regular listener, you know I've already talked about how business growth tends to follow 4 stages. The figure it out, work it out, rock it out, and boss it out stages. And each stage will engage differently with your audience. And each stage needs a different kind of direction. And yes, I'm borrowing these terms because I love them from other coaches. And as I've said, I've tried many, many hours on ChatGPT to come up with cuter, sexy, or juicier words for this, but I just can't. So we're staying with this. And I wish I could give credit, but I can't because I don't know who originated it. But I am borrowing it. But I added the boss it out stage because a lot of coaches, when they talk about these stages of business, they stop at rock it out. And I think that there's another level to this. I think there's a boss it out stage. So I felt like that was missing and I wanted to elevate it. And each stage engages differently, and each stage needs a different kind of direction. In the figure it out stage, your engagement is exploratory. People are watching, they're listening, they're testing ideas. They're asking broad questions and they're looking for reassurance. This stage is about orientation. It's not about traction. And while it's a very important stage, it's not where sustained momentum is built. Let's repeat that. It's not where sustained momentum is built. The next stage is work it out. And this is where most of you are. Most of you listening to this podcast are probably in the work it out stage. You're not asking, can I do this? You're asking, why isn't this working the way it should? I'm showing up. I'm creating content. I'm investing time and energy, but my results are very inconsistent. The engagement here shows up as thoughtful questions and a desire for clearer direction. So this is where you must move from validation to guidance. The rocket out stage is where engagement becomes about refinement. You've taken action. You have traction. You have clients. You have proof of concept. You're making money and you're making good money. And this is where you can expand and where you can play a little bit. Because what you want here is you want consistency, you want efficiency, and you want sustainability. But you also want to be able to be creative. Engagement at this stage is deeper and it's more strategic. This is where small shifts in your messaging and structure can create outsized results. This is where a lot of 10x happens in the rocket out stage. So let's move to the boss it out stage. This is where your business becomes a movement. Your engagement here is all about leadership, community, and scale. While this stage requires a different focus, and many of you aren't there yet, and some of you may not ever aspire to be that, and that's okay. It's important to recognize that the boss it out stages exist because you could be doing boss it out stage activities that are twirling you deeper into a hole that you aren't aware of. Because if you're here, you know that engagement is no longer optional. But for our series, our focus is primarily on the figure it out and the work it out stages, because that's where engage and invite matter the most. And we're probably where most of you are floundering. Because here's the thing, most of you don't struggle with effort. You struggle with efficiency. You engage by teaching. I know that's where I tend to fall. You engage by explaining and by sharing, but you stop short of guiding. And boy, do I know that one. Insight without direction feels good, but it doesn't create movement. People leave thinking, that makes a lot of sense. Not, I know what to do next. And that gap is where your traction disappears. So this is where invite comes in. It's the real purpose of the invite stage. It's not an invitation. It's not a pitch. It's not pressure. And it's not about being persuasive. An invitation is direction. Invite answers the questions your engaged audience is already asking. What now? What's next? What's my next step? If engage builds trust, the invite stage gives that trust somewhere to go. Because without invitation, engagement stalls. So why does invitation feel so uncomfortable? Inviting someone forward requires clarity and confidence. It requires you to say, this is the next step. And that can feel uncomfortable to a lot of you if you value relationships and integrity. You feel sales are yucky. I heard a client say this the other day. I always feel like I'm selling when I'm giving my elevator pitch. And it's not about selling. It's about inviting. It's about telling them your services and inviting them to sample your services. If they don't have a need for your services, they're not going to buy. It's as simple as that. A clear invitation is leadership. Your audience doesn't want to guess what the next step is. They want orientation. And if you don't provide it, they're going to drift or they're going to go to somebody who does provide it. So let me expand just a little bit on that selling is yucky and what I said a minute ago. Selling tries to convince. Inviting assumes that you're ready. Selling says, here's why it should. And inviting says, if this resonates with you, let's take the next step. And a lot of us respond to this because it respects our experience. It doesn't hype us. It doesn't pressure us. It just gives us clarity to say, yeah, this does resonate with me, or, this really doesn't. And that's okay. Because where we are at this stage in our life, we aren't married to the sell. We're married to the service. Engage and invite follow a simple progression. It's not a funnel. It's not a formula. It's a clear path that supports readiness instead of rushing. Each step will narrow the focus. It deepens the trust, and it makes the next move feel obvious instead of forced. When you look at the 4 stages, you consume, you engage, you have a decision call, and then you commit. People consume your ideas and they recognize themselves. They engage and they start interacting. They take a decision call to get clarity, and it's a decision call. It's not a selling call. It's about, this is what I have to offer. This is what your problems are. Does what I have to offer solve your problems? And then they commit to a direction and you move forward. So if your clients are falling short in one of those 4 stages, then where is the problem? Are you not making a clear decision call that moves them to a direction and invites them to move forward? Commit is where somebody chooses a direction and takes ownership of the next step, whether that's working together or moving forward or on their own. The key is the decision is intentional, and you've given them all of the options. This is what you get with working with me. This is what you get if you don't work with me. And sometimes it's just a matter of speed. It's a matter of money. It's a matter of time. It's a matter of, this is not quite what I'm looking for, and that's okay. I once worked with a business owner that had really strong content, but they were afraid to make the offer. They were afraid to invite people to take the next step. The issue wasn't the offer. The issue that they did was that they didn't have a path. So we created the engagement first. And then we introduced a clear invitation, a next step for them. And, here's the thing. It was the same expertise. It was the same audience. We didn't change their ideal client or their audience. We just gave them a way to invite clients to take the next step. And it was a completely different outcome because people knew what to do next. So are you engaging or are you just doing busy work activities? Are you getting ready to get ready to get ready? I love that phrase. It just resonates so much because I do that all the time. I get ready to get ready to get ready. Activity is one way, but engagement is 2-way. So if you're always creating, but you're rarely listening, you're active, you're not engaged. Because engagement requires listening. It requires pauses. It requires questions. It requires attention. Because those types of activities reveal who is ready for you, who is ready for what you have to offer. Here's a way to sum it up. Engage says, I trust you, and invite says, I'm ready to move. And your job is not to force that transition on your clients. Your job is to recognize it and respond to it. But there is a cost to not having a clear invitation, because when you don't invite, people assume that it's not for them. Not because it's not for them, because you never said it was. Sometimes people have to be told the next step. That's why we have calls to action. Remember, we talk about this all the time. You need to let people know what the next step is. Specific language reduces the confusion and the wasted motion. And that's not pressure. That's respect for people's time and their right to decide what's next. So let's go back to some reflection action steps, because I'm enjoying these reflection questions as part of this series. I think a lot of in these episodes require reflection, not necessarily action at this point. That will come later. So I want you to ask yourself, where am I creating engagement without direction? Where am I hesitating to invite? Do my calls to action assume a commitment, or am I asking for a commitment? These answers will reveal exactly where your momentum is leaking and why you are not getting the clients that you've been working so hard for. Engage and invite are not tactics. They're decision tools. If you're done guessing, done tweaking, and ready for traction that matches your effort, the next step is getting clear. And that's what my Profitable Path Blueprint Call is designed to do. It's a strategic conversation. Here's your next step to identify where your client journey is breaking down and what direction will actually move your business forward. So your next step is to schedule a call with me at talkwithlori.com. This will take you to my calendar and you can book a time. Come prepared to decide, not to dabble. We're going to be looking at where you are in your business, what are your next steps, and if those are the next steps are right to work, if we're a good fit to work together. Now, you've been listening to the Midlife Business Academy podcast, and I've made a lot of changes over the last couple of months. You've probably heard me say for a long time that it's never too late to build the business of your dreams. As I've been doing the work and researching and playing with my own client journey framework, I realized something important for myself and my business. I realized that I didn't have a real clarity call to action. The dream business didn't disappear, but it needed to be tweaked. It needed to reflect where I am now and how I want my business to move forward. So in our next episodes, we're going to be continuing the client journey and talking about convert and experience. And thank you for bearing with me with my not so great voice today. I appreciate it. I've put this off as long as I could, but I wanted to get this out so I can maintain my consistency in my content. So until next time, I'm Lori Lyons. And remember, it's never too late to build the business of your dreams and build it in a way that supports your life and creates real momentum. We'll see you next time. Thank you for joining me on the Midlife Business Academy. If today's episode made you think, or made you feel seen, share it with a fellow business owner who could use it too. When you're ready for more support, you'll find the link to book your Profitable Path Blueprint Call in the show notes. I'll be back next week with more insight and strategy to help you build a business that truly fits your life and one of your dreams. We'll see you next time on the Midlife Business Academy.